live. You can keep looking that up, and I'll go live. And I got my opening bid, so.
No more than one for every 30,000 persons, but 435 total. I don't know what the apportionment would be, but there's 3 million people in Puerto Rico. So I'm guessing they're going to have more than one.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would change.
3 million people, I think you would get more than one. Because Wyoming doesn't even have 1 million people. They got 500,000 people, right?
Really, why all those like far Midwestern, like Northwestern states should all be combined into one House rep, but maybe two for all those states combined.
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, anyway, I think we're good to go here.
Oh, what track am I going to build here for? Ooh.
Yeah, it's all on you. I made my final decision of the game.
Oh, there's this one. Ooh, that's an interesting track. It's also this one. I'll just do that after the show.
So hopefully soon it'll be my turn to look at what happens. I want to squeeze that short in that other game. Feeling it. Even if I don't win, it'll be fun to do.
Squeeze them.
But it's good for me too. Like, it works out for me to do this. Anyway. It's Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are reviewing a game you might have heard of called Golf. So, now that it's warm again, I'm going outside again. Like, I ran a half marathon the other day. But I had a situation. I assumed I'd be slower because over the winter, as much as I have a spin bike and ring fit and like it is possible to exercise indoors, even in the COVID environment, even if I can't use like the treadmill. The reality is I didn't do it as much as I wanted to all winter. Like,
I biked on my stationary bike very frequently.
I did it frequently. I did it a lot, but I did not maintain the level of activity I maintain the other 3 seasons because I've never in my life maintained that level. Like, even if
this is actually an improvement versus the because before I used to just lay on the couch in the winter, right? And now I just lay on the couch in the winter, and now it's going to be warm, and I'll probably put it away when it's warm, right?
Yep.
But or at least maybe depends if I commute to work or not, but and then bring it back out when it's cold again. Even when times are normalish again.
So over the weekend, it was really warm, so I ran a half marathon, and I put on my Fitbit so I could track my heart rate, and I did my whole thing. And sometimes the Fitbit will fuck up, or Strava will fuck up, my phone will fuck up. Like, it doesn't happen that often, but every now and then, like, the GPS will get messed up, and it's usually really obvious because I'll be in the middle of the run, and I look to see my pace, and it says, like, you're running 1 minute miles, and I'm like, nah, it's busted.
That seems wrong.
So on this run, the GPS messed up in the most fascinating way possible. The numbers it was showing me were plausible. Like, at like the distance run, everything was really plausible. But it was showing that I was running like 9.5 to 10 minute miles. But like, it lined up pretty well, especially because when I sped up my pace, it seemed to get better. And kind of track, and there's physical milestones along the way, and I hit a physical milestone at one point, and the mileage was only like a quarter mile off, and that wasn't that bad. So basically, the data was plausible enough to where I was using that pace information to pace myself, and I had planned to run a relatively slow half marathon just like for funsies. But because I seemed to be going so slow compared to what I expected, I started running faster and faster and faster and taking a more and more aggressive pace to try to like catch up to my baseline. And I was starting to think about, did I really not work out that much over the winter? And then I finally get to the end. And only then do I discover that not only had the Fitbit fucked up in this like odd way where the numbers were plausible, but based on the physical distance I knew I ran, because I run the same distance every time, I know where the finish line is on the half. I got to the finish line, and it was the 3rd fastest half marathon I've ever run because I was pushing myself and running harder because I thought I was just out of shape and running slow. The moral is I could have been pushing myself harder this whole time, and I just wasn't.
I virtually biked up a 3,000-foot mountain that doesn't exist in the real world at all. It took about 2 hours. Out of the 200-something people, 200 to 300 people that did it recently, I was like the 8th slowest, so I'm not the slowest.
Ah.
I just casually went up like do 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 do. They put a lot of cool stuff up there. There's like when you get to the top, there's like a big statue, and there's like a yeti, and there's some castles, and then when you get to the top, you get to virtually bike down, which you can't do because there's no way to start at the top. You can't be like I want to start at the top. You can only
Oh,
start.
that's a Super Meat Boy style incentive right there. Like, yeah, if you get to the top, guess what?
Yeah, you get to ride down. So you basically get to ride down virtually at 45 miles an hour, which is, I would never ride down, especially since the course is almost all hairpin turns.
I was about to say, I'm very comfortable going 45 to 50 miles an hour on my bike. Not if I have to turn while going at that speed.
Yeah, it's like since it's virtual and you can't go off course. I'm just going 45 miles an hour like it's straight and then I'm going around a hairpin turn at 45, not slowing down to turn or anything. It's just like,
it's telling I will I like skiing. I'll take turns at 45 or 50 miles an hour, but there's a big difference between like basically long knives digging into snow and a soft landing versus a bike and these tiny thin little tires on asphalt.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Also landing on asphalt if I fuck it up.
But yeah, it also, when you start climbing this mountain, the game like switches into like a different user interface that shows you like the segments and a map and everything. It's like a special area.
Ooh.
And when you get to the top, they give you a prize. I got some gloves. I was like, whatever. Virtual gloves for my guy, which I'm not going to wear.
So there is some big news. This isn't just gaming, but it overlaps with gaming heavily. And also it's a pretty big deal. So I think we'll talk about it today to start. Discord, if you're not familiar, and I don't know how, especially if you're listening to a podcast called GeekNights, but it's basically this. It's sort of social media, but it's more like a federated way.
It's just IRC.
Yeah. But it's a way to make a little community server. Like you can just spin one up free. It's on someone else's computer. They just host it. And
basically, I mean, Slack and Discord are basically the same thing for different audiences. It's like, hey, we're going to make running an IRC server easier. You just push your button and you have one.
Yep.
We're going to make it easier to connect to it with a special client and all sorts of easy features like streaming and voice chat and posting embedded tweets and graphics and all these things that IRC doesn't have. And we're going to make it free. And, come on in, set it up, have a good time, right? Make all the servers you want.
Yep. And Discord really focused for a long time and still has a lot of features around gaming in particular. Like it makes it really easy for like if I'm playing a game, I can just live stream it to whatever voice channel I'm in. You can make like dedicated voice chat. Like it's a pretty slick thing.
The original intent of Discord was like you're a Twitch streamer, right? But you want to have a community outside of your Twitch stream because you might not be streaming all the time. And so you set up a Discord server and it integrates. So it's like, all right, people who subscribe to you on Twitch get into separate special channels on your Discord. You can... the Twitch chat is unusable, but the Discord chat may be over there. Those are people who really care about you specifically and not just, passersby in the Twitch chat. So maybe you could actually read that chat. Maybe it's not just an emoji flood.
You also have a lot more control over that community.
Exactly. So the original idea was you integrate it with your Twitch channel when you're a streamer. And then but now, at first I was hesitant to use Discord because that was what it was for, but they really branched out and made it, useful for way more use cases. My favorite use case is if you subscribe to someone on Patreon and they link their Discord server to their Patreon account and you link your Discord account to your Patreon account and then you Patreon them, it automatically adds you to their Discord server community.
I was thinking about setting that up. I just haven't.
Yeah, just set it up.
Yeah, I probably should.
Why not?
So Discord is heavily used, and one of the most important things about it is that there's a whole history. Like you can read about the history of Discord, but it primarily charges the users as opposed to selling the users to other people, which is a big plus.
Yeah, that's good. And the problem is, again, is that it's, you don't have to pay them anything. It's free. But if you do pay, you get some stuff just for you. But their other way of monetizing is these server boosts. So the idea is that, all right, listen, you're a Twitch streamer. If you're big enough Twitch streamer, you've got fans who are big fans. They're willing to like subscribe to you to give you $5 for nothing.
Yeah. Get 100 of your fans to boost your Discord server, and now they all get more features in that Discord server.
If you can get enough people to boost your server, because that's like their main community, right? Those people don't need to boost their own accounts necessarily, because how many other Discord servers are they going to? That's their main home. And if the server is boosted enough, then everyone in the server, even the free users, get advantage of the boosted server. So that's a good model for that Twitch thing, but it's not a great model for the, just group of friends hanging out server, because you're not going to have enough people in there to boost the server. So every individual person would have to pay for their own Discord to boost themselves, which is a lot of money. So you'd get it there in that situation. You get a mix of people who are paying to boost themselves because they use Discord on a lot of servers, and people who are just free.
God, I'm in like 17, 18 Discords, and I actively use about 6 of them.
I was in a bunch, and then I just removed a ton, and I really cut it down to just the ones that are, meaningful, or Patreon and such.
But the news, like Discord is super important to the general internet social ecosystem and also to the gaming ecosystem. And the news broke yesterday that it was looking like it was going to be sold for a lot of money. The going number.
I mean, you knew as soon from years ago that Discord's only future was being sold to someone else, right? They don't have they never had a standalone future. So that was not a surprising
As far as I'm aware, they weren't actually profitable currently, because even with all that boosting and everything, like how many people actually pay for Discord boosting compared to how many people have a lot of free Discord?
And how much does it cost to run Discord with all the video streaming going on and audio streaming going on?
Yep, we're recording GeekNights in a Discord that's boosted, that has higher audio quality.
Right, but it's like they're losing money. They had to be losing money on this. But yeah, so when it was said, someone's going to buy it, I was like, I knew someone was eventually going to buy it, but I guess it's soon. And my top pick was, for who it is probably Microsoft. That makes the most sense.
Yep. I wondered if it would be like Tencent or a game company. I wondered.
Someone suggested Epic might do it, which makes a little sense. Valve, but Valve's not a big buyer of companies.
Also, Valve has invested so much in their own social ecosystem. I'm not saying it's good or it works.
Amazon makes a lot of sense because of the Twitch integration, but Amazon and also Facebook, which makes almost as much sense as Amazon, are both in antitrust hot waters, hotter than at least the other big companies, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft got out of their hot waters.
And it wouldn't have been a good look for them if in the middle of all that, they bought one of the most used communications platforms during a global pandemic when people are relying on these things.
Yeah.
Like if they Zoom is on that
Microsoft
level.
Microsoft makes the most sense, and it turns out the rumors were like, it's probably Microsoft that's buying it.
Yep.
Maybe.
No one will comment from either company, but numerous outlets are reporting that it is very likely Microsoft, and it is very likely $10 billion, and it is in the acquisition conversation stage, but it's not confirmed or signed that they're going to do the deal. It's possible it could fall through.
Seems likely. It's probably the best fit.
Yeah. It's interesting because
there's no one else who can the list of people who can afford $10 billion is really small. So it's not like there's a lot of, you don't have to guess far down the list. It's like, well, no one else lower on the list has $10 billion.
Yep. There's a lot of companies.
Even Apple, who definitely has well over $10 billion, they don't want that. What are they going to do with it? That is not something they're going to do.
Yep. And especially thinking about, there's a lot of companies that could probably do some really fun stuff and make cool things having Discord, but none of those companies could afford this company, so it was moot.
Exactly. Yep.
So here we are. I'm glad it's Microsoft because I suspect they won't ruin it, or if they do, they won't ruin it as fast as other companies. We were legit talking about how yesterday, if it had been Facebook, I think we would have planned to shut down and migrate everything we do on Discord somewhere else, quickly, because Facebook does not have a good track record of not completely ruining things they buy. Beluga. Beluga. I'm still mad about Beluga.
Who even remembers that?
Beluga was revolutionary for its time and was super useful.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess, you know what? Discord kind of replaced it. We've replaced Beluga with 8 different things over the years, and Discord is just the current thing we've replaced it with.
Yep. All right, so let's get through some other tiny news. It's also Microsoft, right? So if you have an Xbox, there was always this thing called Xbox Live Gold, right? And if you wanted to play your Xbox games online, you had to subscribe to it, just like PlayStation Network, just like Nintendo Online. and it was like a monthly fee. And I paid for it for a very, very short period of time back in the day when I had an Xbox. And then I stopped, right? Well, it turns out that there was a whole bunch of different things going on here, but like at one point they were suggesting they were going to raise the price and they were going to do other stuff. And then it's like, okay, we're not going to do that. But
I'm looking, we
now,
talked about this on a recent Geek Nights episode, like all the stuff that was going on with Xbox online services.
Yeah. But what they're doing now is they're going to just get rid of the name Xbox Live because it'd be confusing right? And they're going to have a new thing called Xbox Network. But it sounds like what they're going to, that service that is going to be called Xbox Network is going to provide some other stuff. Who knows what it's going to provide. But if you just want to play Xbox games online, they're just going to stop charging extra money for that nonsense. I think it's what it sounds like, which is great. Because that's what you should have done from the fucking beginning. It's like on your computer, I don't have to pay extra to play my Counter-Strike online. It's not like I buy
and that made things feel extra. Like I can't play Nintendo games on my computer, so I'm less like annoyed by it. I'm still annoyed by the Nintendo Online.
It's like
for other
imagine
reasons.
if you play Counter-Strike and Rocket League. If you've got a computer, you buy Counter-Strike, you buy Rocket League, and you can play them forever online. If you're on an Xbox and you buy Counter-Strike and Rocket League, I don't even know if Counter-Strike is on Xbox anymore, but Rocket League definitely is. And you want to, or Star Wars Squadrons definitely is, and you want to, or is it PlayStation only? I don't know, but you want to play it online. In addition to buying the game and the console, you got to pay this monthly subscription. That's fucking bullshit. Microsoft getting rid of the bullshit hopefully pressures the PlayStations and Nintendos to also get rid of the bullshit.
So this is fascinating. Yeah, the article, when we talked about this last in January, it was because Microsoft announced that they were increasing the price of Xbox Live Gold to make it cost basically, it was a play around getting people to pay for the other service they were promoting, the Xbox. Oh, what did they call it? Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is their on-demand streaming service.
The Gamer Pass is a different thing entirely, and it's actually not too bad if you think it's the way the Xbox Gamer Pass thing is it's basically you subscribe to it and then you get access to this huge library of games, almost like a Netflix of games. Especially compared to, I don't know if it actually streams them to you or if you get to install them. But compared to like the Stadias of the world, it seems to actually be like, good, like a good deal. If you're going to play a lot of those games in that library and you don't own them already, then it can work out. But that's completely separate from paying money to be able to play multiplayer in a multiplayer game. Right.
Well, what's extra fascinating is, so I just took a course on like pricing and like the economics of pricing things, which is like, it was a modern course. So it talked about like the current real world, and a piece of it, something that I sort of realized in retrospect that I knew because I did this over the years, but I never said it out loud, was that a common thing that is a good idea is if you have a service or a product and you want to kill it, but people are still paying for it, but you honestly don't want to sell it anymore, just increase the price. Because then people who are price sensitive will just walk away, thus making it easier for you to kill it. And anyone who's desperate to keep using it keeps paying you money. And you just keep raising the price and then cut it off.
That's a good one.
That is the most efficient way to capture money from something that you want to end anyway. I bet Microsoft did that Xbox Live Gold price thing as part of some strategy to lead to this moment. But I also suspect they had other goals, and because of how poorly that first bit went, I think they changed targets and changed how they look at the market. But I don't know. I don't work at Microsoft.
Yeah. But just one last thing, though, I wanted to just let people know. I tried the Xbox Gamer Pass thing. There was a free trial. I was trying to play with a free trial, and it just didn't fucking work on my computer. There was some bullshit, and I installed that garbage. So, but I do have a friend, and it's working for them, so all right. All right, then just some tiny extra newses, right? So there's an indie game that I've seen a lot, and I've played the first two of, called Emily is Away. It's basically this little visual novel where a simulation of an AOL Instant Messenger chat window is there, and you choose dialogue options, and you're basically talking to your friends once a year through high school, college times. And you're sort of, seeing how your relationship with these different people you're chatting with goes. And one of the people is Emily, and like they're away, right? And then they come, they're not away. You talk to Emily, and then Emily's away again. You get it. But Emily is Away 3 has been announced. It's coming out next month, I think, like April. and it has a Facebook user interface, so it's like it's updating to a newer, younger person. Another tiny news, right? The best Ninja Turtles video games are always the side-scrolling beat 'em up ones, and like the arcade one, for example,
Yep.
right? Or the Turtles in Time one, the Super Nintendo. They're coming out. They announced this Shredder's Revenge, made by the same people who made the Scott Pilgrim side-scrolling beat 'em up, are making a Ninja Turtles side-scrolling beat 'em up, which is
it's good news because
you can't miss with this, right?
That Scott Pilgrim game has a history. We've probably talked about it a bunch of times because it disappeared and was on. You could not play it for a lot of reasons that were stupid. And it was not the best side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it was real good, and it had a really good sense of style. And that is the kind of thing you need from a turtle game. The style matters probably more than the game mechanics, but the game mechanics have to be good. They can't be bad. It can't be like Castle Crashers, where it starts strong and just peters out into nothing. Like, you gotta keep me interested.
Someone pointed out in the preview that all 4 turtles have different running animations and how good of a sign that is.
Yeah, that is the exact kind of thing I would look at and say, ooh, they thought about that.
Yep.
That's the little detail I want.
One last tiny news. There is an action RPG that just went into open beta today. It's based on the Magic the Gathering universe. It's called Magic Legends. It's I guess it's Diablo-ish, but also involves deck building somehow. And it's free and in open beta right now. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's just Diablo click-on stuff. I don't, but it's open beta.
Should we poke at it?
I installed it. I'm going to try it probably tonight. Just, I might uninstall it after 5 minutes, but it exists now. It went up today.
All right, I won't have time to play it tonight because I'm playing Blades in the Dark, but if you don't uninstall it after playing it, I will also install it this week and poke at it.
I feel like, though, Diablo 4 is coming, so it's like if you're in that mood to mindlessly click your way to hell and destroy Satan, then, I feel like any other action RPG is just sort of like, holding you off until then, right?
Let's see, cards represent spells.
I feel like if you played another action RPG before Diablo 4, you might get out of the mood. And then when
I can see that
Diablo 4 comes, you'd be like, right? I feel like it's better to only play Diablo and not any other.
I don't know. We'll see, because the best it talks on this page I'm looking at the bottom about what the cards do, like making a deck. You basically make a deck of 12 cards. You have access to a hand of 4 at a time, and you randomly draw. So it sounds like it's Diablo, but 4 of your actions are a cyclical random set of 4 from your deck of 12.
So it's like a MOBA where you have your 4 abilities on QWER.
But they keep changing because that's like your deck.
You use ability Q, you use it, and rather than cooling down and doing Q again, it goes away into your deck, and another ability comes in the Q spot. That could,
it could work. I would want to hear from one of the game designers why they chose the number 12 specifically. For the size of the deck?
Because you have 4 abilities is pretty standard for MOBAs and things like that nowadays, right? You got 4 fingers on your hand.
Yep.
And that's how games are these days. And then you 3 different things on each, possibilities for each finger. That probably, because 2, I think it would be like, okay, each slot is rotating between 2 things effectively, right? But if you got 3, now it's mixed up to the point where it's not overwhelming with too many different abilities. Like you see, that one again, right? If it's too many, you're like, what the hell is this? You got to read every time you press a button.
Yep.
Right?
But if it's too few, that mechanic just becomes meaningless, and it's just Diablo.
Yeah, if it's just 2 things, then it'd be like you'd just be like, oh well, I just want to get this other ability, Q, and then use all your abilities, and then you're guaranteed that if you just use all 4, you're guaranteed that the one you want will be in the next set, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that makes sense. But I'm gonna, at least it's an interesting new idea. And people will play it because of the intellectual property, and it's currently free open beta. So it's the cost of your time to install it and uninstall.
I'll see if you actually install it, and if you don't uninstall it,
I installed it. I just don't know if I'll uninstall it.
I mean,
be the last.
We got really into auto chess for a hot minute back there, and that I have not ever launched that again.
No, auto chess went away. It had a good time, and then
did have a good time, but it was funny how much I remember we speculated, is this just a flash in the pan? It flashed so hard and then disappeared so hard.
I think the real problem was that there was the original, and then there was the standalone one made by the people who made the original Dota mod, right?
Yep.
And then there was Underlords made by Valve.
Yep.
And then there was the other one made by the League of Legends people. And what happened was
I don't remember which one was which. Like I remember the names of something, but I don't remember which one's which.
Teamfight Tactics was the League of Legends one.
Yep.
The one made by the people who made the original Dota mod was just Auto Chess. And then Underworlds was the Valve one, Dota Underworlds. Underlords, right? But I think what happened is that the League of Legends one won. That was like the one that won the battle of the auto chesses, the Teamfight Tactics one, and that was the one that I was least interested in and didn't care for, and that's why I fell out. If the Underlords one would have won, I probably would have stayed in the hot pan a little longer.
Yep.
I wouldn't be in it now. I couldn't see that happening. But I would have stayed a little longer
because it definitely got a little repetitive and like it would take too long. Like I'd see that I've lost and I couldn't just like, well, like I lose, let's just play again. Like the game had a lot of busy waiting time.
I'll probably talk about this in the future, but there's a Japanese mahjong app I've been playing just for a couple days, and now that it's come up here, mahjong and auto chess are really fucking similar games.
I can see that.
They're really similar games.
Because all the fighting and animation stuff you look at when you're playing an auto chess, that's just color. That doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah, it's really similar. Yeah, I'll talk about the mahjong maybe, in 2 weeks from now.
A lot of games end up just being set collection. And anyway. All right, made a little mark in there. Mark in the metadata. But anyway, things of the day. So this thing of the day is about movies, and I urge you to watch it. But this applies to video games too. A lot of video games do the same thing. You ever notice how when you watch like a modern, like mid-budget movie or TV show, if there's action in like Mexico or Central or South America, everything's always color graded really yellow and orange. And if it's set in like Europe, everything's always color graded like really blue and like the color grading is almost so predictable.
Yeah.
So this is a really good video that dives into the fact that there are times and places to do that. And when that arose, like when early color grading started to be used, it was used to great effect to like tell good stories, create immersion, create difference between scenes. But the argument this makes is that Hollywood, and I would argue video games too, have gotten, whether they intended it or not, really racist about how they use it. And it makes it makes a point about how, and we talk about this a lot in games and in all the Geek Nights episodes about like all the topics. The technology made it easier to do this. Like I can take film that was like footage I shot that wasn't even like shot to be color graded and color grade it pretty well without a lot of work. Like technology got really good at that. So if I also have watched a bunch of movies but didn't quite understand them, I might have internalized, yeah, Mexico looks like that, France looks like that, Norway looks like that, and then when I make it a video game and I'm a producer and it's set in, I don't know, Mexico, I might just expect that we should color grade it to look like the way it looked in the movies, and the movies made it look that way because they were aping other movies, and the first movie that did it actually did it to make a point, and all of that nuance and context and intention was lost. And now you have the technology, and using this technology to get this effect without thinking about why you're doing it, and it's led to this being like almost a like embedded racist trope of modern television and gaming and movies.
I mean, that's how, art history is, right? One person makes like a really realistic looking statue and suddenly you have a whole trend of people making realistic looking statues, right? And then, you get someone who makes a noir movie and suddenly you get a whole movement of people making noir movies, right? So color grading, it's like, it's a particular style emerges, right? And then, people ape that style for however long until it goes out of style, fashion, all the different art forms, the same kind of stuff happens. It just so happens that, in a case like this, it can be a racist trope that is,
because a lot of people using this technology, especially in the kind like the movies that an American would watch, tend to be using it to express distance and otherness of places that aren't the place where the movie's set or where the American characters came from.
Well, I mean, it's they're applying the same technique even in non-racist situations, right? So if you think about if you're playing a video game that's like in a horror scene, right?
Yep.
Or like an old, the old typical like Ravenholm kind of town in Half-Life,
And you
right?
get like
It's
the gamma curve a certain way, so like shadows are too dark to see into.
Yeah, everything's all gray, right? It's like, well, it's not racist to make a place all gray because it's a spooky castle. That's just a spooky castle.
But what
right?
if every movie that gets made...
But if that's your artistic style and you go to a desert, it's like, yeah, it is a desert there. And then it's like, well, I made the castle place all gray at night with the bats and the vampires. I'll make the desert all yellow, right? And it's like, it's a desert country. It's like, yeah, but the whole country isn't just like that.
Yep. Well, especially when...
Look at Counter-Strike, DE Dust. Come on.
Especially when it's real world places, like even gray. Like, what if I think I've seen a trope where a lot of Eastern European countries get color graded really gray and washed out.
Well, I think that the grayness might be a problem, but I think the greater problem is that every story you're telling in Eastern European places is some sort of vampire horror story.
Yeah. So this video
tell a different story about Eastern European people that's not in that kind of.
This video gets into it a lot, and a point because a lot of people don't travel. Part of the weird thing that happens is there are people who then like eventually visit a place like Mexico, and it doesn't look the way, like it's always been portrayed this one stereotypical way. They've never seen what it literally actually looks like to look at a normal photograph of a random place in Mexico.
If you are someone who has not gotten to travel much and you don't really know a lot about what the rest of the world looks like, other than like the photos that you would see in like of famous places, right? Like if you've seen a photo of the Vatican, but do you know what Rome really looks like to be in Rome? Maybe you saw Roman Holiday or something. It's like go and use Google Street View and go to Rome for free right now. You can't get COVID this way, I promise you.
And you'll see a lot of just like real stuff, like how people actually live, like walking around, like what a random street looks like.
Google Street View tourism is not a waste of time. I do it occasionally when I'm bored. I'll just go somewhere and be like, oh, what does this place look like?
I want to say I saw Drew Toothpaste has been like into that a lot lately on Twitter.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't be like, suggest being big into this hobby, doing it all the time, but it's like, once in a while, I'll just like I went to a couple weeks ago, I was like, what does a fishing village actually look like? Because whenever you see a fishing village, it's always like, you just see the area where they're fishing. I was like, I want to walk around the fishing village. So I walked around the fishing village. I found one.
So one thing that's actually really cool is because I have fancy VR with the Index. Street View in Google Earth with VR is shockingly high quality. Like you would not believe.
Can you do a multiplayer though? Like hang out in a fishing village with other people?
Not in Google Earth itself.
Oh, that's a shame.
But there's other VR apps where someone could like make that environment and you could hang out in it. But,
sure.
But that isn't just like built into Google Earth.
It'd be cool to like meet someone in VR walking down the street.
Yeah, I feel like someone could make that and make money with it. I feel like that could be yet another like tool in the VR toolkit.
Maybe.
But I've gone to actually in early COVID, since we didn't go to Japan, I used VR quite a bit to go to the places I'd planned to go to and look around, and it was interesting. It scratched that itch a little bit, but not enough. But it's better than nothing. So what do you got?
What do I have? So, something we like to talk about here on Geek Nights a lot, from time to time is the game theory, right? Which is an actual field of, economics, right? Academically speaking. And it applies into a lot of things in the world, but it also does apply to competitive gaming, which is the reason that we had any interest in it whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And in college, we took a few books out of the library and read them and mostly half understood them.
Yep.
And we looked to do a few other things now and then, but we have no formal, game theory knowledge or training. People are actually game theory people. They know way more than we do.
Oh, absolutely. Like I know like combinatorial analysis, which is still baby stuff. I know the applications and what it's useful for and how to do it.
You can't do it.
But to actually do it myself would require me sitting with a lot of references and spending a lot of time because I do not have any of that stuff internalized.
Right. And we know that, maybe you don't want to go back to college again and get a degree in it. It's, economics degree. You probably don't want that.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, if I didn't have to work and that was free and I could live, I would, but
Well, what
Capitalism.
you can do is, you can go to Yale, the University Yale, the Ivy League school, and they have put online a game theory course for free. So if you can understand the material in the course, you have the prerequisite knowledge available to you in your brain. Here you go, free class. If you took this class online, you would know more than game theory than I do by a lot, right?
Yep.
So, and I
Is
talk
that,
on
I
stage
see a lot of
about
our
it
talking
occasionally.
points. Like there's a whole one of the lectures. There's 24 lectures you can just watch. Like they're just here. One of them is on credible threats. We've talked about that a lot. First mover advantages, aggression cycles. This looks like real. I think I want to go through this.
Yeah. So I mean, you might have to watch some of these more than once if they're too high level, right? To get a full understanding. But 24 lectures.
Oh
for
wow,
free
this gives you the
online.
syllabus, like all the course material, the
Yeah, it's an
lectures.
online course. What do you think it is?
Hey, the exam. Cool.
Yeah, if you want to take the exam and to prove that you passed. I don't think that they have a thing where you can actually get like any kind of certificate thing, but you can certify yourself. You know that you did it, that you're, and anyway.
Neat stuff. In the moment, that clock rang. We're reading the Tale of Genji. He's doing his thing, and he is not a good person.
Out.
He is not a bad person, but he is a person, and he gets into trouble, and not all of it is his fault. And it's hard to really I got to read more to see like where the arc of his arrow is going.
Yeah, it's getting warm out. I'm reading books. If you're gonna read books, why not start with the first book?
Yeah.
Well, not first book, but the first novel.
The first narrative novel.
The first novel ever written by humans. There is no debate about this, that there was some other first novel. This is the one, right? It's volume 1 of novels written by humans. Number 1. Where else are you going to start, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's the book club book. We are going to talk about it at some point in the future. Maybe by the end of the year.
Probably by the end of the year, because it's long,
maybe,
but it's not that long. And again, my only advice to you, if you're going to pick this up and read it along with us, is that you might not understand exactly what happened in one specific part of what chapter. My advice is to just roll with it, and usually things start to make sense later if you didn't make sense right away. And if a detail seems like it was dropped and it never comes up again, also don't worry about it too much. It's not that important to the narrative in the story. You'll see what I mean when you read it. The style is a little bit archaic, partly due to translation and also when it was written. So a lot of things are referenced very obliquely, and even with the translation, it is very easy to miss those references. Unless I was taking a class and doing lit crit, I don't know if it's worth it to you to fully internalize every single detail and nuance of every chapter. I would recommend trying to just enjoy the story and just roll with it. I think you'll just have more fun with the book.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand basically the big picture of what happened in each chapter, right? The current state of things, and also enjoy. There's a lot of poetry to enjoy. So
there is. It's good poetry too. Even through translation, it shines.
Yeah.
All right. So golf. Gonna review golf.
There's a lot to say about golf. You got the actual sport, you got mini golf, you got video game golf, you got golf-like things that, are effectively golf but aren't, right? And golf is interesting in that it has both huge positives and also extreme negatives.
Yep.
Right?
Ranging from cultures and histories of racism to pretty egregious land usage and resource allocation.
One of the best tweets I saw recently, maybe I'll find the link or not, I don't know, but someone tweeted, they said, maybe I'll stop using the term Western civilization and start using the term golf playing nations.
Yep, which I like.
They had a map of the world, and they highlighted in green golf courses per area or whatever, something along those lines. And it was pretty much US, UK, Europe, a little bit of South Africa,
Scotland, I assume.
Yeah, obviously that the whole island.
In Civilization 6, golf courses are literally the national building of Scotland.
Right.
It's a district.
It's like you look at where the golf courses are, and it's like, oh, it's where all the white colonizers live and somewhat adjacent places, right? Because golf is also big in, Korea, Japan, and Singapore, I think, also likes golf, but they don't have that much land.
Golf
Anyway,
course, +1 amenity, +2 gold, +1 appeal.
loves golf, right?
Culture bonus if adjacent to an entertainment complex.
Right. So yeah, I guess while we're on it, let's talk about the negatives of golf, right? So it's this sport, but it's a sport that is extremely damaging to the world in terms of its environmental damage to the places where they make a golf course.
Yep. It requires a huge amount of land area to be playable, and you can't really change that land area, so you have to have a lot of different golf courses, further exacerbating it. And that land area has to be extremely carefully cultivated, which I don't think there's any way to do that without huge amounts of pesticides and intervention in local ecology.
It's also a very bad usage of land, right? Even if you have, first of all, you got a private country club. That's already a huge problem. We don't need to go into that.
Yeah, I got some things to say about public golf clubs, but we'll save that.
A public golf course is better than a private one.
Yep.
That is true. However, consider this, right? Like, up in the Bronx, I think it's actually the oldest public golf course in the country, maybe, right? I think so.
It's up there. It is famous for a bunch of reasons.
The one we bike through. Right?
Yeah, that one.
But if you look at the amount of like square miles, the amount of space that takes up, and then you compare that to even if it's getting a lot of use, right? Like every tee time is filled up with people using it. The number of people using it and like the amount of like, I guess benefit to society that provides those people playing golf, because you're playing a sport, right? That's is benefit to society as much as having public tennis courts or right? But the amount of land and cost of that public golf course compared to the benefit versus what that land could otherwise be used for, since it is public land, right?
Especially if it is next to an urban center or in a major city.
That land is so huge compared to like a tennis court. If you used it for public housing or just a regular public park.
Yeah, that could be another Central Park, like just as nice.
And you're using it for a golf course that a relatively small number of people get to enjoy, even though it's public, right? It's like, that's not great.
Yep. And like compare this even to other high impact things like skiing. Like, I'm not going to try to defend skiing here, but downhill skiing.
You're not gonna live on a mountain, though. You can't. Skiing doesn't displace public housing.
It has other environmental impacts, but skiing mountains, like an East Coast, like Hunter Mountain, for an example, it basically sacrifices one mountain and like local infrastructure around it, but the sheer number of people using it, if you ignore the moral judgment of if it's a good use of resources, the number of people per unit hour of enjoyment of one like piddly ski mountain is probably more. It's probably more than like every golf course in downstate New York combined.
Obviously, every different sport that uses like we could measure like how much damage does this basketball court do. We just paved over some nature, right? Even though it's a small.
But golf is just such an extreme.
Golf is the worst one.
Here, you need enough space for like an entire community for one hole that like 4 white dudes are gonna play golf on for like an hour.
You think about like and there's a lot of like desert golf courses, and they're like watering them, and you think about like they're wasting their water on that in like an Arizona desert. They have a golf, stuff like that. It's
now couple this with the social impact. The game, despite like cheap golf clubs exist, but the cost of actually playing golf is high enough to where most people can't actually do it even if they want to.
It's not as bad as ice hockey.
Nope, ice hockey is way worse on that front.
But it's still pretty bad, right? Which clubs you have probably won't matter unless you're pro, right? You just got to get some clubs. It's like the same thing with a bowling ball. It's like, an expensive bowling ball is better if you're pro, but if you're not, you just got to be, any ball will do, right? The ball from the bowling alley is fine, right?
Yep. Alley ball. I'm looking to see how much how much is said at like cheap golf clubs cost currently.
You can get cheap golf clubs, it's fine, but it's like golf is still expensive to play even on like a public course. You have to get to it, right, with golf clubs, which probably requires like a car. I've seen people with golf clubs on the subway occasionally, but you got to get there.
I can count the number of times I've seen someone with golf clubs on the subway who was not going to or from the airport on one hand.
It's always
in a decade.
100% of the time it's a white dude. Anyway, you got to get there. You could probably got to get there early. It takes a very long time to play golf.
Yep, you've got to have an idle like half day on a weekend, or not have a job that requires you to work.
You have to have people to play it with. You have to have like good weather, right? It's like the circumstances for playing golf is like it really limits it to just the privileged class of people on Earth, right?
But
compared to like soccer, which is get a ball, walk outside, play soccer at the end, right?
Yep. But
exact opposite.
Okay, so like under $300, you can get a full enough set of cheap golf clubs. Like that's less than I paid for my beginner skis.
If you're buying new, I'm sure you can go on eBay and buy some used golf clubs that are fine, as long as they're not bent or whatever.
Yeah, a couple $100 to get like everything. I have known people who played with like a non-complete set because that's just what they had.
You need golf balls too, right? But those you can just get also. A lot I've gotten free golf balls.
Like,
sure.
Yeah. I saw a clip from that episode of Beavis and Butthead recently. Unrelatedly. So, but there's also this social history, especially in America, where a lot of golf courses were private clubs, many of which were white only.
Yep.
And on top of that, rich only.
Rich only. Yep.
Like a lot of them didn't even allow women to be members. Some of them are effectively still like that today, even though that's illegal. There happen to not be any non-white, non-male members. Wonder what's going on with that.
Yeah, these country clubs, which is basically just, it's basically just an estate where you would go to hang out with other people, right? So you live in you're a rich dude, you live in your, mansion or whatever you live in, right? And then, but no one's coming to visit you. There's a place you go where everyone else goes, all the other rich white dudes, right? Rather than going to like the tavern with the local folk, right? Yep. You don't do that. You go to this country club where you pay for a membership. No one else can get in because it's not open to the public. It's only open to your exclusive rich white dudes. You go there and hang out. And, that culture of having a country club, those country clubs all built golf courses on their land. And so the two things were, inextricably tied to each other, right? That culture of rich white dude secret hideout and golf are, at the hip.
And it is possible to have a country club that doesn't have these problems, but they're rare.
Yeah.
Just like social clubs have similar problems. There are a lot of really racist and broken social clubs, but I can see a space for like modern, like nerd-focused social clubs, like that have like a building that's almost like a federated, like this is an apartment that all the members of this club can hang out in to play games, but everyone's got to live somewhere. Like there's a place for that kind of thing, but you cannot ignore the pernicious and long-standing history of what country clubs, especially golf-related country clubs, have been in the United States.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
want to review the game?
Yeah, let's talk about the game.
So I'll admit, I don't like golf. I've played it twice, and I do not enjoy it at all. It just
So golf, on the one hand, right, is kind of boring. It's like you hit the ball, you walk. It's more like hiking than right. It's like you hit the ball, you walk. You walk.
Of the two times I've done a full golfing at like a full let's do 18 holes, like just do the whole thing in my life. Once in middle school, once in high school. I got to the point where I just wanted to do the holes as quickly as possible, like to get better at it and also be done.
You just ran to the ball wherever it was.
But everyone else took their fucking time. Like they would just a
lot of the people who play golf, right, is if you're not actually caring about the golf, and this happens in mini golf and regular golf. You're there for just to have fun, get drunk, and walk around with your friends. You're taking your sweet ass time. Or B, you actually care about winning the golf, in which case, pro golfers, they got to take their time to line up the shot and really concentrate and focus. And it's slow, right? It's, slower than baseball. You got more time between strokes in golf than you do between pitches in baseball. It's not a fast paced or thrilling thing. It's a very slow, plodding kind of thing. But as a game, it's actually not too bad from a fundamental standpoint, right? The idea of, you need strength and precision, right? You have to cover distance and also accuracy, right? To get this ball into that hole in as few swings as possible, right? That's really challenging. It's also has this added element of the environment providing a challenge, right? You're damaging the environment, as we discussed already, but the
Yep.
environment itself is a challenge, right? You got sand traps, you got water, you got trees, you got wind, you got, who knows what's going on, right? All these, not a lot of the other sports out there, other than like wind during like a football game when they're kicking.
Yep.
It's like other sports, the weather doesn't come into play very much. I guess football also, it could rain or snow on that and they
Yep.
don't cancel. But other sports are not affected by the environment much the way golf is. And that's added excitement. Plus, the rule in golf of you got to hit it where it lie or take a big penalty, right? So it's like if you hit it and it lands in a pile of rocks way off in the woods or something, or it's under a tree, it's like you just got to deal with it.
Yep.
That's kind of exciting and fun. For as rare as it happens to professionals, it happens to normal people all the time.
Yep. It's also got an equipment factor that is substantial. Not in terms of like, oh, the fancy golf clubs versus the cheap ones. In terms of there are a lot of different clubs. Like you're allowed to bring 14 with you, but like there are more than 14 kinds of golf clubs. So, make your deck, prepare your deck before you play golf with which clubs you're going to use. And every club is kind of radically different. And you have to have the knowledge to understand when to use all these different kinds of clubs for all these different situations. And they're way more complex than you might expect. It's not just like, oh, the one wood is the big one and the iron's the small ones. Like each one has a specific purpose.
And that's the thing is the specific purposes, because golf provides lots of different challenges, right? 1 second, you're trying to drive and you're just trying to hit the ball straight in that direction as hard as you possibly can to make it go as far as you can. And the next second, like you're trying to chip. You want to, chipping is like a separate skill. And then putting is yet another skill.
Yep.
So it's like there's all these different things going on in golf all the time that, as if you're just playing it and you can somehow deal with the slow parts, as a game, it's actually kind of exciting. And that's why I think golf actually works really well as a video game, because you're just doing the hitting part only.
Yep. It's like the game covers because this game also requires an extreme amount of specific physicality, and like you have to master these very specific and minute actions and control them in a way that is difficult to learn and difficult to teach.
Yeah,
and also has extreme diminishing returns after you get the basics down.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like playing golf to the point that you can at least get it on the green reliably doesn't take that long to get that far. Getting to the point where you can drive it to the final green or like deal with a curve or something, that takes a lot longer. And then actually being good, spend your whole life doing nothing but playing golf.
Right. And then if you do manage to get really good at golf, you do make a lot of money because,
golf has it might be out of scope for this conversation, but golf has a very mature and well-developed professional and amateur scene.
Right. Yeah, the money comes from obviously the rich, evil white people. But it's like if you look, like you look at like PGA Tour, for example, right? And, you can tell that golf, there is some luck and some weather and other things involved in golf. So you don't see the same thing as tennis where like it's so skill based that the same person wins every time.
But the same few people will always be at the top.
There's like a subset of the pro golfers who are like usually near the top and then get bumped out by age, and they get shuffled based on other factors, who's better at this course, whose style suits these holes, what's the weather like, who's in a good mood, that sort of thing, right? But what was I saying? Right? Oh, it's the luck shuffles the people up. It's skill based. I forgot what I was saying before that.
Yeah. But if you look at the game mechanically, like there's the physicality aspect, then you break it down into there's the game of how many strokes does it take to get you close to the hole, and then you play the close game, which is just mini golf.
Right. Can you before is the same set of people who shuffle near the top, but the number of people who have PGA Tour cards is actually, it's not a huge number, but it's a substantial number. A lot of people have PGA Tour cards, who means you get to play in those tournaments, even though they'll probably never win one. And they're probably, not going to be competing for the top. But if you look at the payout structure, it's like, okay, you have a tour card, you play in a tournament on some weekend, and you came in 40th place in the tournament, right? You qualified, you played on, I don't know, you made it to Sunday and you lost by a lot, right? Or something. You got out, you got eliminated Saturday or something, who knows? You make tens of thousands of dollars just for doing that. Just for one golf tournament in a weekend.
Yeah, because that's designed to make sure there is an ecosystem to keep fueling professional golf.
And that doesn't count. It's like if you have a PGA Tour card, even if you're like a no name, you got sponsors. Someone's paying you to use their clubs. They're giving you the clubs. Someone's paying you to use their balls. So wear their hat, wear their shoes. Right? You make money just doing that, and that's why I was tying back to it's so difficult to be good enough to get on the tour.
Yep.
That it's like there is a structure whereby if you do really love golf and want to spend your life doing it, there is a like payout at the end there, right? To, if you're successful.
Yep. So in terms of playing the game, like the reasons I find golf uninteresting is that it takes so much investment to be even competent that it's very hard to make it fun early. And it's just not worth the investment, considering that
you can go to a golf course that's like all par 3 holes, and that's like a good place to start. But yeah, even there, it's like you could, if you're just starting, you're shanking it off into the woods.
Yep.
Even on a par 3.
Now, what more people play, and it's a lot more accessible, and I think is a lot more fun game, is mini golf. Because mini golf, if you've never played it, is just that last phase of regular golf.
Yep.
So imagine you're playing some video game where we all agree, all right, everyone, let's skip the first world and just play 1-4 together, like in Mario. Like we're just going to race 1-4. So you can zoom in on that one very narrow aspect of the game and then expand the problem space and possibilities of that part of the game. And there's a whole ass game in there that's real fun to play.
Yeah, mini golf, I think, lacks the environmental aspects of golf. The wind doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
It's things like
there might be an obstacle that's artificial that kind of gets in your way.
Right, but the obstacles add back some of that spice.
Some poor mini golf, those are often more luck-based, but good mini golf, those obstacles have a skill component.
Yep. But yeah, mini golf is a whole lot of fun. I think there's basically that fundamental core of golf, which is get strength plus accuracy, get something from here to there, in as few attempts as possible. That core structure you see applied to many other games, and those other games, while they are not golf, are effectively golf, right? For example, Scorched Earth is golf, right?
Yep. How many shots does it take for me to hit Scott's tank?
Exactly. Mechanically speaking, it's golf. And that fundamental game mechanic of golf, it makes for a fantastic game, and you see it used frequently. Most often in video games that look like golf, but also in other, in other games.
But I guess
anything where you're making attempts or getting closer to something, right? Or, anything, how few, how many
look at it. Here's a video game, Pearl Golf.
Yeah.
Dude, make a function, like make a Perl script that does something, and then take that script and make it smaller and make it smaller. And who makes the smallest one? Like iterate on that. How many characters did it take? It's kind of an inversion, but it's a similar principle. But we can't disentangle those mechanics from the culture of golf, because one area where I think game mechanics wise, golf and mini golf both suffer to an extreme degree, ignoring professionals, but regular people who just want to play these games, is that culturally they both have a strong disconnect between people who try to win and people who are there for other reasons. And I've seen that blow up in both situations constantly. I see every time I've ever gone mini golfing, if my group doesn't have a fight about someone trying too hard, some group has it. Like, it is so common that it's a thing. And I've seen the same thing happen on big golf courses. Usually it's a few people are pretty good at the game and are trying to win, and a few people aren't good at the game and want everyone to slow down and hang out and like not actually try to win.
Yeah, I mean, some people, it's just a matter of attitude, and because it's the game provides actually many different things to enjoy, right? It's enjoyable to play it on multiple levels. people enjoy it for different reasons. And if they enjoy it for different reasons and play together, then you get conflict. I talk about this all the time, how like the Star Wars fan who writes fanfic and the Star Wars fan who cosplays, maybe they can get along, but the cosplaying one would probably get along better with cosplayers of non-Star Wars things, and the fanfic writer would probably get along better with fanfic writers of other non-Star Wars things, because you get along with people. You're in the same community when you enjoy things for the same reasons, not when you enjoy the same thing for different reasons. So a lot of people enjoy golf, but for different reasons. Some people might enjoy golf because it's a nice walk in, a lush green place on the weekend. They're old, they got nothing better to do, right? Some people enjoy golf, because they actually want to win and they're trying to practice. Some people enjoy golf because, the socialization aspect. And we forgot to mention the culture of like business people. I think it's lessened in recent years.
It's definitely lessened. Golf is in a steep decline.
Yes, but in the 80s, 90s especially, there was a huge culture of business people do meetings on the golf course and get deals done there. You'll see it a lot in sitcoms from those eras.
It's interesting in like working in capital markets and interacting with people from a lot of these different strata. One thing I've noticed is that the current state of that is like people who are like around like my level of like working in that kind of industry, when there's a business deal conversation, it's usually like nice restaurants, like that level, or if it's a hobby thing, it's like ping pong is really big.
Ping pong is big in the city, yeah.
Yep. Sometimes pool, but then the like rich-ish people are golf, but the super rich people, it's all creepy stuff like big game hunting. Like that's a thing I've run into a few times of creepy rich people. Like they will go big game hunting together, and that's their thing.
I'm actually seeing with the rim level of rich people, and there's a thing rim does. Rock climbing is a thing.
Yep.
Right.
But rock climbing is also a thing among freelancers in New York City. Like
it is.
All the rock climbing gyms have co-working spaces in them. It's a weird.
Yep. And then I've seen the occasional, there'll be like a trendy thing, like the axe throwing was a trendy thing. I don't know if it's still a thing now, but
I hope it's fading, because it's not.
I hope it's really bad, but it was a brief trend, the axe throwing, right?
But you can see that
nature.
You can see that people who run mini golf places recognize this problem, because almost every mini golf place in America will have a 5 or 6 stroke limit, partly to keep people moving along. But I'm confident a lot of that is because if there was no stroke limit, the scores among any given group would diverge even more and more wildly, leading to even more tempers and fighting. The 6 strokes both lets them shuffle people through faster, and it also lets them, like, someone who's bad at this game will just get 6 on every hole and have less of a fight than if they get like 39 on one hole along the way. Because one thing I've noticed with our group is whenever we've gone to play mini golf, there's a set of people who want to play without a stroke limit, and there are a number of people who will often not only want the stroke limit, but not want anyone else to play without those limitations. Like around them or in the same space.
Well, I think that's the last thing, I want to mention is that, you have this sort of social conflict of people enjoying the game for different reasons. And that also ties into like maybe the biggest barrier to playing golf is like, let's say you're a lone person, right? And you want to play golf and you don't have anyone else to play golf with. It's like you go to the golf course, you can't just play. I don't know if you can play golf when you're one person.
You can.
Like they put you with other people. Right?
Depends on the golf course. Like you can often play golf by yourself, and a lot of mini golf places are more than happy to let you play by yourself.
But regular golf, they're going to put you with people, right, who are looking for an extra person, right? It's like you got to get in the cart with 3 other people. Well, partly because of it takes so long to play a hole, and they got to get people through so they can make more money. Yeah, they're not. I don't know if any place will let you just play golf by yourself alone, unless you're like a pro at your own country club or some shit like that, right? Maybe there is. What do I know? But it's usually like you're getting people together, so that can keep a lot of people out of it, right? And that it's like pick up basketball. You just go to the park and play basketball, right? You don't need But to play golf, you have to have people to play it with, and that's a huge barrier, and I think that keeps a lot of people out.
Well, especially when the skill disparity, you can't play golf at all until you practice enough to get to this like baseline level, and you just make the experience worse for anyone around you.
Driving range is fun, at least.
So
Kinda
I
go for,
did,
like, a
funnily enough, I know a lot of people, I've done this too. I would go hang out at driving ranges even though I had no interest in actually playing golf.
I did a lot when I was younger. I had these golf balls that were like wiffle golf balls, and I would just hit them on my own lawn.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
I
got
had
pretty
those
good.
same ones.
And then I would go to, like, I never played, real golf, like walking around 18 holes, but we'd go to when my dad and grandfather, they were into golf in the 90s. We would go to the driving range, right?
Mhm.
And I would hit a lot of balls in the driving range, and it was just a fun activity for like an hour or so. It didn't take all freaking day like real golf.
Yep.
And it was probably cheaper too, which is why and it had a limit. You'd buy balls, you'd hit them all, and you'd be done. And that was sort of
Yep.
like getting tokens at the arcade, right? You spend them all, and then you're done.
Now,
And I
mini
think that's
golf
why it was
does
a good thing to do with kids.
mini
Right?
golf does have a similar barrier to entry. It's not as steep for reasons, but basically, like if you've never played putted before, mini golf is like stupidly hard. Like you will not succeed. There's a lot of knowledge and technique and skill you have to learn, and I think that mini golf has an extra problem on top of golf because while the golf skill divide is much greater, it takes longer to get to that point of basic competency, and it's easier to do so in mini golf. People, because mini golf looks small and chintzy and has the hazards and the kind of culture around mini golf, I think a lot of people assume that mini golf will be relatively easy to get good at. And thus that leads to some of the frustration because the game looks like it should be easy. And then you struggle with it and you get six every hole.
Hard or harder than actually putting in real golf.
Yep.
It's the skill of putting, an extremely challenging thing that professional people are not perfect at, right?
But then simultaneously, people who play mini golf get really good at mini golf and it turns into a Counter-Strike situation where like they will just always get par no matter what and you're still hitting six literally every round.
Yeah. The thing that I find, I guess, frustrating is like when somebody is like, they want to do better, right? You'll see it's like someone who doesn't care about winning. It's like, okay, they don't care about winning, right? And then you'll see someone who's frustrated, right? They want to do better, right? They're actually competitive. They do care about winning. But they don't put any work into like changing their technique or anything. It's like, I learned how to hold a golf club properly, right? It's like, in my earlier days, how to swing it straight, how you're supposed to swing it and how to rotate your, at least the very basics, right? Nothing, obviously my swing is probably garbage, but at least I have knowledge of the basics and I'm, holding the club away. That is not a natural way to hold it, but it is the correct way to hold it.
Weirdly, I play golf left-handed, even though I'm right-handed.
All right, that's, whatever.
That's just that my dad
right?
was left-handed, so.
But I see people who be frustrated, but will make no attempt to try to change their technique or even to the basics.
Yep.
Right. And if you try to, you don't want to mansplain anybody, right? But obviously, if you do, they'll just get mad.
Mini golf
So
definitely
don't even
specifically has the cultural expectation of most people is that no one should treat it seriously enough to give advice. And that's an aspect that I think is important to think about with games in general. The culture and setting around a game can actually set expectations that may or may not match the reality of the game. And mini golf is almost a perfect storm of that. Mini golf is an extremely high skill game that has the appearance of a random game. And that disconnect can lead to the kinds of social angst that occurs on many mini golf courses.
Right. And that same, those same social things, right, are tied in with the, excluding people on a higher level, right? It's all part of the same deal. So yeah, golf is way too much going on in golf historically, right? But I think the key positive of golf is that the fundamental game on a mechanical level of, do a thing, in as few steps as possible, right? And having to use multiple different skills, right? Strength and accuracy and finesse and such, and right? Together and not just like one skill, make for an exciting formula. But a lot of the things you put around that formula obviously are going to make a huge difference.
I saw a joke video of this once. I don't know if anyone has ever played this. I can Google after the show. I
Frisbee golf? I just got to throw that
Frisbee
out
golf
there.
is fun. I've played Frisbee golf. I'd like to see what golf would look like if someone went for speed run, strokes don't matter, first person to get the ball in the hole.
It would be, the problem is it would then become just endurance.
Yeah, the problem is it would become a who is the best like mid-distance runner.
Exactly. The golf part would cease.
Because I would hit it, who cares where it goes? I'd run over there because I'm a real fast runner, and I just drag my putter along and take it right into the hole.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
I will say I want to play some mini golf after COVID, but I don't want to play real golf.
I do enjoy mini golf greatly.
Let's make a point of playing some mini golf, and if we're lucky, maybe we can even live stream ourselves playing some mini golf.
Oh, with our phones?
Yeah, I think that could be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we'll.
I did do that thing of the day some months ago, where the guy who was like reviewing mini golf courses, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we could go to some of those.
We should. I want to go to a good mini golf place because I could talk for hours, but we're at the end of the show around what is a good versus a poor mini golf place. But I think mini golf places would be its own show, independent of the concept of golf as a sport.
You'd have to go to enough places to.
I've been to maybe 50 mini golf places in my whole life.
I've been to.
And I remember.
When was the last time I went to one? I had to like remember.
When I was in Wildwood. Last time I went to Wildwood. No, this previous 2 times ago I went to Wildwood. Last time I went to Wildwood, I didn't do any mini golf.
The last time is I had to go to Cape Cod for some wedding, and we played mini golf because we were there for extra time.
Yeah,
there was a mini golf.
But of the mini golf places I have specific memories of, there are 3, and 2 of them are in Wildwood. So,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess there was putt-putt at RIT.
Yeah, did we actually putt-putt though?
I remember we did once or twice, and we always said we wanted to. The reason we didn't was it was either too cold during the day, or it was too hot during the day, or the mosquitoes were out. The mosquitoes were the big thing. That putt-putt was just like that. I remember the mosquitoes being a very specific problem for us.
We would go to New Hampshire, fun spot for vacation, right? And there was a mini golf near there. It was pirate themed.
Ooh.
But we always called it Mosquito Land because we go there at night to play mini golf, and it was just a big mosquito swarm. And we played mini golf there anyway. Despite that, we put on bug spray and we go in and play mini golf.
Yep, I had similar memories.